Fatboy and Company scratch build from a photo. Hopefully the final installment, adding window glass and preparing the base, adding scenery to the base and just finishing the whole scene off. To add window glass, I have got a piece of clear plastic. I have measured more or less how big the window is. Let me just make sure by measuring it. I think just about 12 millimeters will do, and then I'm going to measure that out using a very sharp X-Acto knife or hobby knife again. And I know the width I have measured against the window, that is fine. So 12 mil, 10, 11, 12. If I can just make a nice mark there, that will be visible. And then on the other side, so I can join the two. Alright. I can see my mark on that side, on the far side. And that should be sufficient to run a few light strokes with the hobby knife. Very important not to force the knife through, but to run light strokes. And there we have the window glass for the top window that we'll install shortly, fitting behind the window frame there. And then also we have to cut the piece of glass for the door at the bottom, and that one has got a bit more trickery to it because the aircon, as you can see above the door, not very easy to see on the video, but the aircon needs to be gapped and then in the glass so that it will sit nicely. But let's just see what is the width of the door so that I can cut it slightly wider than the door. It's about 14, so if I cut the width to 16, and let me also make sure of the height. The height should be around about 30, so 30 mil by 16 mil. That should give me, yeah, that is going to be perfect, and that width over there is going to be perfect. So I can just put this down and use one of the lines on my cutting mat as a guide. Lining it up with that line, and then lining my ruler up with that line, and that will be another cut with many light passes. And there it is done, and that piece of clear plastic can be saved for another build later on. Let's see if we fit this. Okay, we see there is a bit that needs to be cut out. I'm going to play a guessing game here, and I'm just going to start with a pair of scissors and cut a little block out. I more or less have an idea how big the aircon is, so I'm just going to gently cut a little block just to try it. And I know I've got some spare of this clear plastic if this is not working. I know I have that I can actually add some more, and that is actually working perfectly well. It fits right up against the aircon and against the door, so we can install the window glass. Now to do that, I'm going to use some polystyrene cement or liquid plastic cement, glue it on the back on the door frame and on the, it's quite difficult to see, but the window as well. The plastic is open at the back there, so I can just put the glue straight onto those. Let me just get some of the polystyrene cement or liquid plastic cement. Good, I've got some liquid plastic cement. Now let's start with the door. Painting a healthy bit onto the door frame, and then if I can get the glass, make sure that it's right up against the aircon and fitting it in, and that is done. Now you can see the glass from the front. There should be some reflection. And now let's do the top. Adding some liquid cement, and then we need to again very carefully slide the window in. Let me just see if I can get a better grip from that side. That is, maybe that one needs to be trimmed a bit. I think that is a bit too long. Now let's try again. And that sits perfectly on the window. So the glass is installed, both the top and the bottom. Now I always like to leave it a little bit dirty, that you can see there is some glass in there. Right, then the roof has been finished, the gutters have been added, so that will just fit on top with a slight overhang, right like that. If I can keep it up to the camera, you can see there very nicely. And then we need to add the railing, and for that I need to drill some small holes into the steps and into the body of the building, and bend a piece of wire and paint it black. Okay, I have found a drill bit and a piece of wire that are more or less the same size. So I think this drill bit is a 0.04 millimeter or 0.05 millimeter, so less than a millimeter in diameter. Don't ask me to convert that to imperial, I do not know that, and I'm using my phone that's got the converter on it as part of its calculator as the camera at the moment. So I'm just battling to get this drill bit secured in the pin vise, which it is now, and somewhere here, I hope you can see it, is the piece of wire that I will be using for the hand railing. So now let us bend this one over and see, more or less it was about halfway up, and let's drill a hole into the building. I can hear it going through. Alright, now let us see if that will sit in that hole. I think that hole has got the, if I can just hold it like that, you can see it's there sitting nicely. Now we need to drill the second hole at the bottom, but we also need to bend this piece at a slight angle, because the top is straight and then it goes down, and then we need to find more or less at the bottom where the hole is. So let's put it into the little hole again and then see, okay, I think that one needs to be trimmed a little bit, but if we look straight in line, the last step, I think there where I made that little mark, you can actually drill the hole for that piece of wire into the steps. Telling you, working with drill bits that's less than 1 millimeter in diameter, you work very slowly, and if I buy them, I normally buy about 4 or 5 at a go because they break like you won't believe it. You just look at them and they break, especially if you use them in a drill or a Dremel. So I prefer to use the pin vise so I can gently drill by hand, which tends to preserve the drill bits a bit longer, but they still break. And they get blunt. Then you have to replace them. A new one always works a bit better. You can feel this one is battling to get through the bit of plastic, but we just keep going. It shall hopefully be through the plastic very soon. I don't want to drill into my finger. That I have done on occasion as well. Alright, now we have got the hole in the bottom in the steps. Let's place the railing in there, and then we see we need to trim a little bit off the top. I have eventually got the shape correct and the size correct, so now all that remains is to paint it black, which I will do a little bit later. And then the other thing that needs to be done is the wall sections for the fencing. They are on a wall. Sorry, I've been attacked by mosquitoes. And I need to put a little brick row on the wall section, so I'm going to cut the brick rows and add that to the wall section, and once that is done I can start painting the areas that need to be painted, and then we can start putting it all together. Cutting strips for the wall sections. Luckily the brick paper has got a very nice mortar line, so I can cut just off the mortar line, and that will be the correct size for the wall section that I need. Again, many light cuts, and now let us see how that one fits onto the wall section. That one has to go on the inside. I think that is a very close fit, and then the top of the wall section will be painted. Alright, let's get some glue and let's put that section on. The favorite messy part, gluing the brick paper to the wall section, which is just a piece of basswood. And then of course I will use a scrap piece of card just to spread the glue. And this piece is really a scrap piece of card, it's not hard enough. Oh, there's a nice piece of cardstock just to spread the glue all the way across the wood and into the corner. and then I have also folded the brick section, so there's a nice fold to fit right into the corner. And let us now proceed to install that into the corner, and then just okay, and then on the other side we need to also measure the length, how long that section is going to be, and cut another piece of brick paper to do the outside of the wall section. Okay, that is like in half a brick longer than that existing section, so let's just cut it that little bit longer, and then also 1.5 bricks high. Now we just need to press that one flat a little bit, but that should now give us a nice square fit. Yep. And again, let's add some glue. And let's find our piece of scrap cardstock. Alright, and then let's add the wall section. Alright. The top of the wall section, as you can see, is still wood color, but that I will be painting a rust color that is very close to a terracotta to match in with the bricks, and then the fencing will be sitting on top of that. Painting the different little extras, like the handrail is being painted black, so I've got some black acrylic paint, and I am just using what's on the inside of the cap. And trying to get the handrail covered as much as possible. There is a small piece of press stick or blue tack that we can just store it into for now. And then the second area that needs to be painted is the boundary walls on top of which the palisade fencing is coming. So let us paint. I'm using a micro brush, just dipping the bristles into the paint, and very gently, not to get paint on the brickwork, painting the top. And then also the edge of the piece of wood, and I'll have to do the other edge as well. And that can be set aside to dry. And then the bigger L-shape boundary wall. Again, being careful, and sorry for all the animal sounds in the background. I'm sitting in my garage and my neighbors have got dogs that are confined to their yard, and they're not happy about that, so they are moaning to get out. And we ourselves have got a couple of cats that is running around, so you might hear a cat meowing every now and again too. I do apologize for that, but that's unfortunately, when you're an animal lover, that's part of the territory. Alright, so that one is painted. Now I need to just quickly clean up the paint brushes and then I'll be back. While the paint is busy drying on the wall sections, I'm going to mark them out on the base so that we can continue doing the scenery on the base. Tape that off, and also where the building itself is situated. Just make sure that we've got the correct places. And when that is done, we can now fill in the grass on this side and on that side, and there's a footpath that runs across there. I must just make sure that it's in line with the front door. Now comes one of the fun parts of any build, and that is to mask off the areas that must not get any scenery material on them. Let us do that little area with some nice greenery. Okay, I have added some glue, craft glue. I'm just going to spread it around a bit. Good, and then add the greenery. I'm using some Woodland Scenics green grass. I think it might be burnt grass, and you'll notice I'm applying it through a strainer to get a very fine texture. Shake off the excess, and then let us put that back into the strainer. And repeat the process. I think maybe we need to add, or let that dry and add another layer on top of that. But then we can also now look at the opposite side, where the building's end will be. Another piece of fencing running down this side. Okay, and so there's another area that will require a bit of grass. So let's again apply some glue, and again I'm using some of the craft glue. And using a piece of cardstock just to spread it around. And then tea strainer just to get a nice fine texture. This time we might even try to just lightly pat it in with the finger. I think this needs to dry. Though the scenery is not completely dry yet, I'm going to remove the masking tape so that I can install the walls and the fencing that goes with that, and then we can cut the walkway as well. Right. Now let's just get some more of the craft glue and run a little bead. Well, that's more than a little bead, but we can again spread that with the scrap piece of cardstock.